I'm the engineer on engine 16. I get to drive our engine safely to the calls, get our crew there safely. I'm also in charge of getting the crew's water for a fire attack, and also for highway safety, I help set up a safety zone for our crews to operate. I also in charge of all the tools and equipment and upkeep, and to keep everything running as well as could be. So starting up front here, we have a bumper line, 100 feet, 1 3/4. We use this for most car fires, small dumpster fires, anything that just needs a quick deployment and put the fire out quickly. This right here is one of our intakes. The hydrants you guys see on this street, we get to hook up the big 5-inch hose in 3 different places. This is one of them. We also have one on the officer side, and I have one on the engineer side. So. Up here is the cab where I sit. We have lots of different panels in here, but able to operate emergency lights. I put the engine in pump for pump gear to get water to the pump. We have foam and calf capabilities with this. We can also do pump and roll, which means we could drive the engine while crews are out if needed to put fire out. Maybe it's a brush fire on the side of the highway or the side of the street. Other panel lights that we can turn on, scene lights, seat belts, always wearing our seat belts. So over here, I can operate the sirens, the Q siren and the air horns, either on the steering wheel or with my feet to free my hands up, making sure I'm signaling. We got headlights. We have a main battery switch that turns the batteries on, and then the ignition to start her up. Back here, if we have the staffing for a 4th firefighter, they'll sit back here in this firefighter spot. And in the doghouse over here, I have my air pack, which I'm able to put on once I've stopped safely and get out. I have my air pack, keep my bunker gear out here. We got extra flashlights, box lights up here. Over here, here's one of the other intakes for our 5-inch connecting to a hydrant. We have a small one here if we just need to refill the tank quickly. We have different types of discharges for different types of hoses that we're able to deploy for different sizes of fire. Right back here is we keep our 2.5, they're all pre-connects, which means they're plumbed in. Once we pull them, we get water to the nozzle right away. We have 2 separate lines, 1 3/4. This one deploys off this side, the red one deploys off the officer side, as well as a 2.5 is made to deploy off the officer side. Right here we have our pump panel. We're able to have, we have foam, we have a compressor for calves, and all of our panel here we have information, for water levels, foam levels. We can tell our engine temperature, oil pressure, hours, how much fuel we have left. So I have my tank to pump, refill. So if I'm refilling my tank, we carry 650 gallons of water, 30 gallons of foam, and through here I can also turn on scene lights, use my air horn if needed, and generator we also have.
Ryan, I'm the firefighter on engine 16, and I'll be taking you around to the rest of the truck. So after Mike gets done doing his magic up front, and he's got water to the hose and the pump panels and everything's charged, it's time for the lieutenant and I to get to work and go about what we call the big toolbox. And so rolling in through the rest of the cabinets, we have a really big, large wildland interface around Station 16 here, so we always make sure to keep our wildland gear, especially in these hot summer months, really close by. So we have our progressive hose packs with a couple hundred feet of hose in each pack, plus our wildland shelter gear and everything that we need to do to go out and attack the burning grass, burning weeds, whatever it is that's on fire. We can do a big long stretch out to wherever it is. If we have any kind of ventilation that needs to go, say we have like a really smoky house that we need to get a lot of smoke out of, We've got a big fan here that we can charge up, and we can use that to put air into the inside the building and force it out through the rest of the way. Up here is our standpipe system that we can connect to our larger buildings within our district. So whenever you guys are walking through those hallways, there's those connections on each floor. We can use these to connect to it. And we've got a couple things up there that we use to show how much water we have coming to that area. And then we'll stretch out this hose on whatever floor that is. And so while that is occurring, Mike is doing stuff over the pump panel. He's sending hose to that building, and we're charging that big standpipe system. Moving back around, we've got just a bunch of tools here. More of our wildland stuff, so we can use that on the other side of the truck. Cribbing that we can use for basically shorting cars is what we mostly use it for, but we'll use it for some other things that we may potentially need to stabilize. If we do catch a fire and we see that it's really big, sometimes we'll actually stop at a hydrant prior to getting to the house. So my job as the firefighter would be to hop off of my seat, which you'll see. I'll come back here, I'll grab my hydrant bag, and I'll come back up here, and we carry a really, really large hose that connects to the hydrant that we can then charge and send to the truck. So I stay back there. Mike lets me know when we need water. I send water down the line, and then whoever else is up at the truck will come up and they'll grab our hose and they'll take hose off and they'll go inside. So if we need any kind of additional hose, for whatever reason we have to make a really long stretch to a certain area that we can't reach with our just general 200 pre-connect, we have a horizontal standpipe here, which is our 2.5 connected to a gated Y connected to an 1 3/4 with a nozzle on the back. So I'll come out here. It's a big progressive pack with a rope attached. I can shoulder this, it comes off, and it's connected to everything else that's inside here. And so I can just keep stretching, and then we'll basically go and stop wherever Mike needs me to. Our special hidden compartments is where we keep everything interior. Ladders especially can be a little beat up and exposed to the elements, and so our engineer committee found a really cool way to store them inside the truck to allow for them to not get wet and rusted and stuff like that. So if necessary, and we need a big long ladder, these pull out really super smooth. If you notice, they're really sweet because they're right here at shoulder height. So it makes this really easy for us to be able to pull out 1, 2 if needed, and we can carry those out ergonomically, I guess is probably one of the better words. So pretty sweet system there. If we need to, we also do a lot of medical stuff. So there's a secondary backboard if we need to carry somebody out of a hard to reach place, or just bring inside on a medical call. Up over here in these top portions, we carry just some additional stuff for the pump, a foam adductor, and some just roof hooks. We have an attic ladder up here as well. Back over here, another hidden compartment. We keep some secondary stuff, trash hook and whatnot. We can put a couple of other tools up there if we need to. So, moving around to this other side, Station 16 sits along a few really big highways. And so we'll get called to a lot of highway calls, and if somebody is crunched up inside their car, we've got some tools that we can use to open up cars, force doors, basically spread metal and get the people out. We have a hydraulic pump. We call it a power unit. Basically just a small mini hydraulic motor that powers our big tools. If you've ever guys have heard the Jaws of Life, this is kind of a smaller version of them. It's a combination cutter spreader tool that we can use to open and then close to cut metal, spread metal. We also in there also have a door chock, door jam, where we could use to basically just force the car open to allow us to get inside and access the patient. Other just kind of random tools. This is just a door spreader, and then if we need to, we can go in and we'll pop doors. If we don't want to do any damage to the car, we can get somebody out. Moving along to here, this is where they keep the kind of the traditional fire stuff. So we got the sledgehammers, we got the irons, a couple axes, some hooks, and then bolt cutters that we could use for just basically whatever we find necessary to break. And looking inside here, we carry our water cans. We've got some spare SCBA bottles. We already have them inside the truck, but if we go through them on a call, we can come back up here. These are already charged and ready and fresh for us to be able to replace and put our packs back on and go back in and go back to work. Rolling through to the rest of this, we have an additional extinguisher in here, another water bottle, or not a water bottle, an air bottle.
You want me to jump on this one?
Yeah.
So I'm Bill, I'm a lieutenant on the engine. This is basically where we keep our EMS equipment on the engine. Anything from minor medical calls to car accidents. We do run ALS. Ryan's our paramedic on this rig, so we've got ALS equipment in order to treat patients. We do that mainly before a medic unit might get there in ambulance, and then load them up on the ambulance and send them to the hospital. Keep my personal gear on here. This is where I get my air pack. We got also keep my tick in here, thermal imager. We use that on fires or if we're investigating like a smoke investigation or that type of call. Also keep wildland gear in here as well. Moving on, this is the other side of our crosslings. Carry, like Mike was saying, 2 3/4 hose. The red one is the one we can pull off of this side of the engine. We can also pull our 2.5-inch hose off this side of the engine as well. This is where Ryan rides. This is a firefighter seat. Basically, he's got a choice of riding forwards or backwards. If he's riding backwards, if we're on a fire call or a call where he's going to need to put on his SBA, we've got that SBA built into the seat. Everything else that Ryan can need back here is within reach, whether it be gas detectors, his helmet, medical gloves, flashlights, whatever you may need is going to be back here. We're always wearing our seatbelts, of course, so we try to make sure stuff's within reach, even with the seatbelt on. Last but not least, up here is my seats. On the way to the call with Mike driving, he's looking for directions from me. We've got our MDC up here, which gives us mapping and also tracks us by GPS to see where we're at, where other units are at. On the way to a call, so we've got a multi-unit call going on. We want to make sure we're looking for where people are coming from so we don't meet somebody at an intersection when we're running lights and siren. Also gives us locations of fire hydrants. We can zoom in and actually get a topo layer where we're looking at actual satellite photos, looking at trail access, that type of thing, which we use a lot here at the station with the river that runs near here. Again, I carry my gear in here as well. I got my helmets and radio. We always have our tactical gear up here in between, within reach. And yeah, that's about it for my seat.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the hydrant to get a water supply, and then we're going to flow the deck gun up top for you guys. Ryan's doing some acting engineer training, so we want him to practice before he gets signed off to actually be able to drive the engine and be able to pump a fire. So we're going to do a little bit of training for you guys. Basically, if we go to the deck gun, we've gone defensive on the structure fire, where everybody's out. We're at that point just trying to detect exposures, which are buildings that are adjacent to the one that's on fire. We got a large volume of water, trying to get through, put out as much fire as we can, dissipate as much heat.